everybody. Welcome to Spear Tackle Rugby episode 18. Alongside me, Brenty.
Well, virtually alongside you.
Virtually. How are you, boy?
Fine, and you?
Living this. So, what a weekend. Knockout Rugby, Champions Cup, EPCR. A lot of our predictions were wrong. I don't
think too many of them were wrong. I don't think too many of them were wrong. I will have to go back and check. But yeah, I do love knockout rugby. I feel like it brings out the best of every team. Obviously, it is very sad that a lot of our South African teams got knocked out. But still, Challenger Cup, Champions Cup especially, is just, I really do see why the Europeans love it so much. It is really, it's really something, to see. I think.
Well, it's the best of the best, right?
Yeah, and I still say bring in the Super Rugby teams, and then it really is the best of the best. I think that will be really something to watch. But yeah, we've had that discussion many times before on this channel. But anyways, what a weekend of rugby. I think in this episode we'll do like a general discussion on sort of who we think is going to win it. I know it's very early to predict. I don't think it's too early to predict, actually. I think after this round of 16, we really do have a good understanding of where certain teams are and how far they're gonna get.
Yeah, teams looking dangerous, teams looking not so dangerous, even though they are through. I mean, I at some stage this weekend had to kind of I was so rugby fatigued, just like it was non-stop, one match after the other. I was jumping between matches at some point. It was just
I wasn't as
crazy.
As lucky as you. I was visiting the in-laws, so I couldn't watch as much rugby as I would like to. I did watch a lot of it, but I would have liked to watch most of it, or even all of it.
But it was good. Like we mentioned, disappointment's real when it comes to the SA teams, but there's still one flying the flag there. The Bulls. Away win for the Bulls was good. So I think let's start with the EPCR.
Jump straight into it.
Yes, let's jump straight into it. I'm gonna say my say about this. Lions average at best.
They've been very disappointing for the past few games, not just in the EPCR.
Yeah, at one stage they had like 17 phases. They built up 17 phases, and I think they only gained about 9 meters with those 17 phases. So that was really disappointing.
Yeah. But Edinburgh were in it. Yeah, they were there to play. They didn't want.
I get where you're coming with that, but I don't think Edinburgh has enough firepower.
Yeah.
In my opinion, to topple the teams that really look good. I mean, you look at the Ospreys were on fire. They came out guns blazing. They looked good. I mean, you look at same with Leon versus the Sharks. The Sharks were bad.
Don't even get me started. Yeah.
I know it's your team, boy.
Yeah.
My team wasn't there. That's why I can say a lot, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, they only won that match by, I think it was like 13 points. At that level against a very, very, very poor Sharks side, that's just not good enough. Just not good enough. Connacht against Cardiff was a blaster. Connacht really 15-point win. Racing versus Perpignan was probably a very boring game. I watched the highlights on that. I don't see Racing doing anything much than where they are now. Leicester and Montpellier, I mean, was a 7-point win. Nothing really marvelous in. And then the Bulls 32-22 with everyone by now. So, and then Bath massacred Section Palloy, and Edinburgh beat the Lions. So for me, in my honest opinion, if I look at the EPCR, I feel it's probably gonna come down to probably Bath Bulls final if they stay on the current form they're on.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
I
agree
don't
with
know
you.
what you think though.
I agree with you. So look, I think the big question is, I think that's probably what we'll have this episode about is who do you think is going to win it? You know, instead of going over, we have gone over a lot of the games. But instead of going in depth in it, I think what we should, who do you think's got it? We've got a good understanding on where the teams are after this. Obviously the Bulls flying the South African flag very high, like you said. Um, Fucking Sharks are unbelievably useless. The Lions have just been dismal, and I don't understand why, because they really started the URC. I know this is different comp, but they started the URC with a massive eye. They were one of the only teams, except Leinster at the time, that were unbeaten, and they're just getting smashed. Now I know they've been on they've been 3 weeks on the road, but I think the Bulls are up for like a month on the road now. So that's also it is gonna affect them. But yeah, who do you think it takes it? You said you see a Bath slash Bulls final. I agree with you. I have to say I do agree with you. Um, but who do you think finally takes it?
Oh, honestly, I'm gonna back the Blue Bulls. I really feel that there's gonna be a South African team that's gonna and we only have the one team in both competitions
Yeah.
back. So we're backing the Bulls, and I mean at the moment their backline was lethal. Sergio Peterson just out of nowhere.
But he's been good for a while now. I remember. So he's sort of that one player that always gets sidelined for Caden Moody or Kurtley Ardenson. Kurtley Ardenson a sabbatical. And then every now and then one of them gets injured, and Sergio Peterson, gets back to that, and that's exactly what happened in the final the semi-finals of the URC last year. And Sergio Peterson looked like a monster against Leinster. And even last weekend, I can't even remember they were playing against, but even last weekend, I feel like Sergio Peterson is really, really in very, very good form.
I have to agree. Look, it's a hectic thing. He's gone from club to club to club. And I think the Bulls is his swan song. Obviously using the opportunities, enjoying his rugby, and like you mentioned, he generally plays at 14. So his competition already at the Bulls is like you mentioned, Caden Moody, Kurtley Ardenson,
big competition,
Sebastian de Klerk. And then outside of that, you're looking at who's he competing against? Suleiman Hartzenberg. He's competing against Jason Colby. So it is a tall already. He's got a couple of Springbok caps, and I feel he was snubbed a bit. I feel he should have gotten a bit more game time in his career, based on his performances. I mean, I think he's pushing 30 at the moment.
30.
So his chances, in looking at it realistically, to ever put on the green and gold again is few and far between. So I can't see him. Putting on the green and gold, but he's such a good winger to watch, and he's good on defense, good on attack. Every now and then he battles with the eyeball, but he is a shorter wing as well, so understandably. But
very energetic.
This weekend, if they had to pick a Springbok team this weekend, he would definitely be running out at number.
Very, very hard-working wings. You get some of those wings that are just sort of finishers. They just run that last meter over the line to score the try. But you always find Sergio Peterson a lot of the times coming off of his wing, looking for work, looking for what he can do and how he can assist, and trying to make an impact in going forward. So I really, really, really love Sergio Peterson. But he's like a Warwick Galant. He's a brilliant player that you probably won't see in a green and gold anytime soon.
Yeah, and you mentioned coming off his wing, but it's also not just that. It's the support lines he runs.
Yeah, 100%.
His support lines are so good. It's like he's always on. When the game is on his side of the field, he's always on the shoulder. He's always, finding the open spaces and stuff like that. And I mean that try he scored over the weekend. I mean, it was a team try, but they just tore that defense into smithereens. I actually felt sorry for the opposition there. I mean, because I felt sorry for Bayona, because there was just nobody in the world would have defended that. It was 100%. That was how good it was.
No, 100%. You see, okay, I agree with you. I can't see any of the other teams. Maybe Connacht putting in a massive fight. But I can't see any of the other 8 teams. Winning it. To be honest with you, either Bath or Bulls. And I mean, Bath have also. I mean, Bath are. They've had some doozy games as well. Yeah. But I definitely think that they're more than capable of winning the Challenge Cup. They've been top of the Premiers. The Premiership. The Gallagher Cup. I don't know what it's called this time. I don't really watch that. I don't think it even broadcasts here in South Africa.
No, it doesn't broadcast to us.
But I mean, Bath have been looking very, very good. They've got under Johan van Graan, they've got Thomas the Tank Toy, who I think is my pick for the replacement for Frans Maherbe. For the Springboks, who's looked brilliant for Bath. I've seen snippets and shorts and highlights of this man just fucking smashing it. I think he made like his 50th try the other day or something, And for a prop, that's really amazing, I don't know, but anyways, yeah, I do hope it goes the Bulls' way, but I do think either or it's going to be a match to remember. Those Bulls forwards, against a very strategic, it's going to be a massive game, and whoever takes it, it's I'll pay a lot of money to watch that game.
Yeah, I honestly if I look at the results and I look at the thing is, for me, the Bulls that they were playing, they were playing away, and playing away against a team that's not looking that bad at the moment, with Bayonne. And it is a 32-22 win for them there. Definitely for me as an away game. And then the other one is Bath, having a 25-point win away against Section Paloi.
Yeah.
So I have to say, based on the performances that I've seen this week, I'm going to go with a Bath Bulls final in Bath, obviously.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's where that's gonna head, and I'll back the Bulls still, but I feel that although I have to back the Bulls out of the South African perspective and support in me, I think that Bath will probably take it this time around, and I feel that I'm willing to put my head on a block that it's going to be a Bath Bulls final.
Yeah, I don't think the Bulls will take it though. As much of respect as I have for Johan van Graan and his Bath team, I just think that, last season, Jake White wasn't taking the European Championship or European Cups serious at all. I mean, he sent a B team to get slaughtered in the Champions Cup. And it seemed he sent a very, very strong team over to the Challengers Cup. So I do think he's looking for some silverware. But yeah, I think let's move on to the Champions Cup. Now, in the Champions Cup, I feel like there is a lot more contestants for that cup. I mean, I watched a lot of the Champions Cup this weekend. Yes, some of these teams just look unbeatable, and it's like giants clashing. And I think, I mean, there's some big games in the quarterfinals that are coming up. But in the semi and the finals, I mean, that's going to be something, to behold. To me, there's 4 real names in contention, and you can tell me if you disagree with me. But it has to be Leinster, it has to be Bordeaux, and it has to be Toulouse. Why am I missing one here? Or Glasgow. Okay, there's the 4 there. Those 4: Leinster, Glasgow Union, or Toulouse. The most unlikely between the 4, I think, is Glasgow, and that's no disrespect to Franco Smith's team. They played very, very well this weekend, and they have been looking very, very well in the URC, second in the log if I'm not mistaken, and they won the URC last season as well. I just the way that Leinster is playing, I just then I don't see them losing to Glasgow this weekend, and I don't know if it's possible for them to lose in a Champions Cup. I know that they do get knocked out in quarterfinals or semi-finals. They're not they're like the Irish that a lot of the times just can't put it through. It doesn't matter what form they're in. But I think this is different, and I don't think it's just because of Jacques Nienaber or Leo Cullen or Argus Neyman or Jordy Barrett or 90% of the Irish team that's in the squad. I just think they've got the culture right there, and we spoke about it before as well. If you look at Leinster versus the Sharks, the Sharks played dismal. There's no two ways about it. It was a very, very young Sharks team that went. Leinster team that went over to the Shark Tank in the URC, just the last game of the URC now before the URC went on a break. And it felt like those young Leinster players knew exactly what to do. Something where the Sharks are lacking completely. When we saw a very young Sharks team over this weekend that went and got smashed by Lyon. So I think it's sort of a drive that they've got that they know that they can win it. They know that they can back themselves. I don't see them. Obviously, it would be probably an upset if Glasgow Warriors do win it, and it's not impossible. Leinster and Ireland don't have the best track record when it comes to knockout rugby. But I honestly back them to beat Glasgow and definitely make it to the finals. I don't see them not making it to the finals.
Yeah, I think.
Then you've got.
I think.
No, you go.
Just to add on that,
Yeah.
Leinster was smashing it, but I just feel that Glasgow also has this they've got this odd confidence about them. It's like even when the game doesn't really go their way,
yeah,
they still seem to kind of just back themselves in this 50-50 situation. Looking at Leinster though, it's a quality outfit. In that episode that we were talking about the Shark Tank and we had a guy that commented on the video and he had some valid points, and we didn't bash Leinster, we were bashing their concept of buying overseas players for their side, because I do feel when it comes to teams at the moment, Leinster is probably one of the benchmark of producing. I mean, if you as a club go and we can take this debate into the Shark Tank again. You're looking at the Leinster side. Yes, the majority of them are Ireland internationals, but you're looking at the Sharks team as well. The Sharks team that was set out on the field at what about I think 11 Springboks.
It was embarrassing.
12 players that have been in the green and gold. And most of them were, World Cup winners.
Yeah. It's and that's sort of where I got a lot of respect for Leinster, is that the fact that they sort of proved everyone wrong. I mean, you and I, we've bashed Leinster. We can lie about it, but we have bashed Leinster a lot of times.
I don't have a problem with Leinster. I've got a problem with James Lowe.
No. Yeah, but the point the point I'm making is, a lot of us, especially as South Africans, talk about their endless budget and all the international players, but they sort of proved us wrong when they sent a young team to sort of give that big middle finger to South Africa when they went to South Africa and smashed beat the Sharks. That was without Argus Neyman and Jordy Barrett.
A Springbok laden Sharks.
A Springbok laden Sharks. So well done. That's what I'm saying. But coming back to Glasgow, their next opponents, I don't think it's impossible for Glasgow to win or to beat Leinster, and I think what you said is 100% true. That they've got that champion mentality, and I think that all comes down to Franco Smith. I think, I think I've heard the guys, Jean de Villiers and them speaking about it as well. Franco Smith has sort of showed the Glasgow Warriors, or sort of convinced them that they are a championship, or not a championship, a winning team, and given them that winning mentality. And I think they would have a lot of confidence and belief in themselves that they would be able to beat Leinster. I don't think they are going to.
That's what we've discussed, right? We've discussed the winning mentality against the losing mentality, and that's what the Glasgow Warriors are doing well, and that's what Leinster is doing well. So you're taking two teams that's got an exceptional winning mentality. You're taking two teams that are not accustomed to losing, and those are dangerous teams, because that's where we are with the Springboks. And it's like I said, especially you sometimes see it with the Lions, you sometimes see it with the Stormers, you sometimes see it with the Sharks. It's like they coach to lose by as little as possible.
Yeah.
They aren't coached to win by as much as possible. They're coached to lose by as little as possible. And for me, that's bullshit. But I know we said we're going to have a discussion about that. So let's jump to this. You mentioned your teams. I don't think Toulouse really stand a chance. They looked very average against Sale Sharks, which for me in the top 16 outside of Harlequins were probably one of the weaker sides. So to just scrape that victory through, I don't think it was good enough. The Border Beagles, I think, they're obviously up there. I have to agree with Glasgow Warriors. I have to agree with Leinster. And definitely Toulon. We'll do it in our preview episode later in the week. But I mean, it's the Toulon Toulouse. That's basically a derby. You've got.
You think Toulouse takes that?
No, I don't think Toulouse takes that.
You think Toulon takes it?
Yeah.
Look, Toulouse are missing, obviously, overhyped the Pont, so, and he obviously does make a massive impact to that Toulouse team. I still think Toulouse stand a massive chance. I think Toulouse have a lot of big names that I mean, they've got Intermac, Blair Kinghorn, Thomas Ramo, we spoke about him before, Ange Capuzzo. I do think that Toulouse stand a massive chance. And I agree with you. I watched that Toulouse Sale Sharks game. And I remember, I think the first try, I can't even remember who scored the first try, was Toulouse. And then Sale Sharks, scored a try immediately. I remember after the first try was scored for State Toulouse, I was watching a game with my wife, and I was still telling her, yes, just how good did these guys not look on attack? I mean, Capuazzo, throughout the game was magnificent. I think actually he picked up a serious injury, so I don't know if we'll see.
Yeah, well, you see that is the thing I that I wanted to touch on as well. You look at LBB, Red Riding Hood, and you look at Capuzzo. Those two are just so good to watch.
Yeah,
they're just so good to watch. And I mean, if I have to look at it from that perspective, Toulon Toulouse, like I say, it's a derby. It's a French derby. It's probably two of your top French sides going head to head in Toulon.
Yeah.
They're probably the one game that snubbed everybody. Northampton Saints versus Castres. I don't know. If I have to put my head on a block, and this is this is just me making this an easy prediction. I think the winner between Leinster and Glasgow faces the winner between Toulon and Toulouse in the final. And if it's Leinster, I've backed Leinster for winning the Champions Cup. If Glasgow wins and they need to travel to France and play either Toulon or Toulouse, I'd back Toulon or Toulouse. But overall, I want to go with a Leinster-Toulon final.
I wouldn't write off Border Beagles. And that's for that. I don't know where LBB is. As far as I know, he wasn't even playing this weekend. But I would not write off the Border Beagles for this. I mean, they've still got players like Maxime Luku, Jason Statham, who's looked so bloody good when he came up on for overhyped the Pont when he got his injury in the Six Nations. They've got LBB. I don't know where he is. I don't know if he's injured or whatever. Yoro Moafana. I hope I'm saying that right, not butchering it. Who looked brilliant in the Six Nations as well. And then Damien Pennell, who's literally scored a double hat-trick against the Sharks, which is the Sharks probably not the biggest achievement. I wouldn't write. And then obviously Big Ben So I wouldn't write off Bordeaux Beagles. I think it'll be to be honest with you, I think it'll be a Bordeaux Leinster final. Fuck it, I'm backing Bordeaux for this. Honestly, I am, especially if LBB is back and fit. I know they didn't have the most convincing win against Ulster, but they are a team to be reckoned with, guaranteed.
Yeah, I don't know. This is now the one where it becomes
I'm
controversial.
changing. I'm going Leinster. Fuck it. I think this is the one. I think Leinster have really invested in a lot. I think Leo Collins obviously been getting a lot of heat. I think they've been in the three previous Champions Cup finals, losing against Toulouse, and then I think La Rochelle, the season before that. Yes, that was when Johnny Sexton and I think it was Ronan O'Gara had a scuffle up in the during the halftime of that game. But anyways,
I remember that. Yeah, I it's this is like you mentioned. We understand why the Europeans like this competition so much. The Champions Cup previously the Heineken Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the Champions Cup. You've got Leinster, you've got Glasgow. You've got the top Irish side, the top Scottish side. You've got the three top French sides.
Yeah.
Plus, okay, Munster. Munster was the surprise for me.
But La Rochelle haven't been in the best form of recent. Actually, I think I did back La Rochelle for the win. But well done to Munster for actually going away and to France and beating La Rochelle. Well done.
And then I'll tip my hat before we go into our last segment. I think we've got about 5 or 6 minutes left. Bennett and Rugby taking Castries to a 2-point game. It was almost an 80-point game. And I backed Benetton.
Yes, they had a massive scuffle up. I don't know if you saw that. I think the highlight of that game was the massive fight that they had. We know how the French can get, and obviously the Italians have the same fire in them.
Yeah. Oh, well, so we both go Leinster on Champions Cup.
Champions Cup. I think this is their year. I think they've invested a lot in it. They've got Nienaber involved, and it really has made that defense, solid.
Yeah.
I think Leinster have actually conceded the least tries, in the Champions Cup, so far. I'll need to double check that. They've got the Erge Snyman who's got a bionic arm who can grab a ball with one hand and the line out. And they've got a Jordie Barrett, who's very, very good. And then they got a Dan Sheenan, a Caden Doris, and a Josh van der Fleer who actually looks very, very good. I think I was giving him some flack in the Six Nations, saying that he was a shadow of his former self. But he's looked really, really good over this weekend. I'm not sure. I think he got man of the match. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, but I mean, I even you gave a lot of people flack. I remember the episode that you stored into James Lowe, telling everybody
Me or you?
Telling everybody what a disappointment he is and and whatnot. No, I mean, look, I definitely think Leinster is going to take that. Out. But moving on to our last thing, and I quickly want to do this. We're on 28 minutes for this. I think we need to
keep it under 30. Yes.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen, but we're not going to go to an hour, I think.
Yeah.
The South African team, South African rugby, although we're in a good place, we're not in a good place. And why I'm saying that is I'm looking at the news we had in the last stage, with the Cheetahs potentially, closing their doors.
Closing, yes.
And I'm looking at the substandard teams that we are sending, to play the Champions Cup, to play the EPCR. Okay, and we focused on this whole URC thing, and I'm not sure, the URC, yes, fantastic competition, but I mean, you're sitting with a union that's potentially closing their doors at the end of the season. Surely SA Rugby at some point has had to go and say, listen, we understand the Currie Cup, the oldest but times have changed now. I mean, we need to progress and we need to advance. And at the moment we're not, because if I look at the second string team that the Sharks sent, I look at the depth of the Stormers, when they were when they had all the injuries. I'm looking at the Lions. I'm looking even, to some extent, the Bulls. You know, our backup players are just not good enough, and we're not going to develop that when we are constantly trying to snub other nations. So I think what we really need to that is say, okay, I mean, you've got the Pumas who's playing fantastic rugby, you've got the Griquas playing fantastic rugby, you've got the Cheetahs. You're looking at your lower ranked teams, that don't necessarily, get the opportunities that they deserve, get the opportunities that they need, and whatnot. That be incorporated into the big. We are losing stadiums. We are losing clubs. I mean, the Cheetahs surely has to be one of the oldest clubs, in South Africa.
Yeah, 100%.
And the potential that we are going to see them next year has just kind of gone away. And we can't allow that, as South Africa. And we're gonna have to be a bit more stringent on that. And I have to go and say, okay, so here's where we're at with this. The guys that are playing overseas need to be contracted with a South African franchise and do like Gertley Arends did.
Sabbatical.
Have a sabbatical. We are allowed to play X amount of things. The same that New Zealand did with Jordie Barrett. We can't have our core Springbok players. I mean, RG Snyman playing against the Sharks, when he's playing against Eben Etzebeth. Okay, because I mean it's just ridiculous. The Cheetahs have a lot of potential, but they're a union that's run out of money. They need to go and say, listen, this is the situation. Alice Park is at the moment probably the worst stadium that we've got in South Africa. Dangerous. It's not in a good location. Nothing. Why not merge the Lions and the Cheetahs into one team?
Bring back the Cats.
Bring back the Cats. Put them in Bloemfontein. Better stadium. Safer stadium. Or go and say, this is the situation. All the games that we play in the Champions Cup, or in the Champions Cup or EPCR, is played in Bloemfontein, and all the games that we play in the URC is played at Alice Park, whatever the case might be. Or do a 50-50 split and say half the URC games there, half the URC games at Bloemfontein, and the same with the EPCR or Challenge Cup. I don't see them in the Challenge Cup anytime soon, so it will be EPCR or the Champions Cup. And I mean, just do that. It's honestly, it's not a hard thing to fix rugby in South Africa. It is actually saddening, and we discussed this in the amount of players that the Cheetahs have produced, and world-class players. I mean, you're looking back in the day, Oosterand, John Smith. You're looking at Oxenchair, we mentioned last week as well. I mean, you look at Oli Leroux, who was a Springbok prop back in the day. There's so many players that have come from the Cheetahs, names that us older people would remember. I mean, you look at guys like Willem de Waal. There's so many players, and to see that Dwayne Vermeulen, also came from the Cheetahs.
Yeah,
and to have that union close for me is
it's sad.
And I hope that if they don't do the merge, that they would consider.
Going to Super Rugby.
Yeah, SA Rugby, just go and say, listen, guys, we went back in Super Rugby. We've got 3 teams that we can write in. We've got the Cheetahs, we've got the Griquas, we've got the Pumas. Can you make space for us inside Super Rugby? And I'm pretty certain that would even be more beneficial for us, because these guys are going to get exposure of international levels, because then they're playing international players that's from the All Blacks, and
they'll definitely get smashed for the first few seasons, but eventually they'll get there.
But we're going to create depth. But the main thing is to create depth. I mean, Are we going to lose all those Cheetah players to second division French clubs now? In second division Italian clubs?
I do get what you're saying, teammate, and it is really, really sad. That I know that the Cheetahs are playing in the what's it called, the SA Cup, which is sort of a spin-off of the Currie Cup, and they were doing horrendously there. They're getting smashed by, I think it was a Griquas that smashed them like, yeah, it was ridiculous. But anyways, I do get what you're saying. I do think though that in our 4 main unions, I don't think we did have a player problem, and I think SA Rugby has always been sort of, especially our union teams have sort of been up and down a lot. I don't think that we got a player problem. I think that we've got a massive coaching problem, that's now. I don't know. I think the only way to save the Cheetahs is by sending them to Super Rugby, and then same with Pumas and Griquas, but they've never really been that big or as big as the Cheetahs.
But they've also never really had the finances, and that's why I say
no, they haven't.
When they are incorporated into a international kind of competition, where you can have, for example, let's even use a simple example. The Griquas merged with the Pumas and the Cheetahs.
Yeah.
Right? And they create a team that can actually go and compete in the EPCR.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, you've still got Bloemfontein, you've got the Mbombela Stadium, you've got world-class stadiums that are home 100%. Stadiums to these guys.
Yeah.
Now the Cheetahs, who are in a financial predicament, have to take on the EPCR challenge and get based in Amsterdam for 6-7 months at a time.
Yeah.
No, that's bullshit. But anyway,
but the talent that is coming through, though, especially from the 4 main unions, is impeccable. I mean, we have a lot of exciting players that are coming through. And that's why I'm saying I think we've got a coaching problem in South Africa. I mean, you look at the Sharks should not be getting smashed by a C team Leinster. They should not be, they EPCR champions, and I think even with the team that they sent through to Lyon, they should have been able to get a dub. You look at young players like that, Lelebeti Bester. I hope I'm saying that right. He looked brilliant over the weekend. Yes, what a fucking monster on defense. There's so many individuals. Jerenza Julius, Ethan Hooker. Then you look at the Stormers. You were mentioning what's his name, man? Hartzenberg. You were mentioning Hartzenberg. There's so much talent coming through. Then don't even get started on Alliance at JC Pretorius. Quayne Horn, Mornay van der Berg. I mean, that whole damn team. You can pick one. They should not be doing as bad as they're doing. Those guys. There's some individual brilliance there. It's not a player problem. I think that and if you look at the only team, and I know Jake White gets a lot of flack, the Bulls are the only team that are really looking pretty decent and solid in the URC at the moment. Whereas the other 3 teams are very, very up and down. You look at the Sharks and in 4th position, and you wonder to yourself, how, how did they get this far? So, anyways, I think that we need to bring some of our big name coaches back. We've got Johan Ackerman. That's I think he's an advisor to the SA under 20 team or something. Bring him back. He's a brilliant coach. He was the Lions coach during the Lions heyday. Bring him back. Bring him back to the Shark Tank, or bring him to the Shark Tank. Then you got Johan van Gaan from Bath, who's doing brilliant things. Franco Smith. Bring those guys back, and I'm telling you now, we're gonna see a massive difference throughout all 4 of our URC unions. I'm not complaining that they are at Bath or that they're away. I understand. I don't mind the South African coaches coaching overseas. I'm just saying I would prefer them coaching here. No disrespect to Plumtree. The Sharks coach. He's not our guy. I know that he was the Sharks coach during the Sharks heyday, but he's not really doing it for them anymore, you know. And I feel like we need a South African coach back in that role. John Dobson has been there for 2 seasons too long, you know. And then Ivan van Rooyen, you know. I know he's trying the best with what he's got, but he's got a lot. If you look at it, if you look at that Lions team, you know, we need someone that can utilize what he's got. Look at that starting 15, even the 23 match at 23 in the Lions. Look at that team and say, "No, fuck it. I've got a URC winning team here." You know, like what Franco Smith has done for Glasgow. He showed them and convinced them that they are champions, and they believe it. You know, and that's how they won the URC. That's how they went to Loftus in the finals in the URC. And after the Bulls have just came off a win from of Leinster, and they were definitely the favourites for that game, and they beat them. You know, so we need more of that in our 4 teams. As for what the Cheetahs can do, I don't know. I take my hat off for Frans Steyn. He's tried. He really has tried. I know he's been pushing for the Cheetahs to go to Super Rugby. I don't know. I think that is probably the biggest bet. You know, the Challenge Cup sort of gave them a lifeline, but you know they were only the home games had to be in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and they really didn't do very well there either. You know, I think they need funding. To be honest with you, I really do think they need funding, and then maybe a bit more opportunities, and then we can see a revived Cheetahs team. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on it.
I think that's a good place to stop, and people can reflect on that. Brenty, I'll see you on Thursday.
Then
we'll do our preview for this coming
for
weekend
the quarterfinals.
For the quarterfinals, and I think we hit the nail on the head. But we'll discuss that in the quarterfinals. And then we'll see everybody again on Thursday.
Cool. Cheers, guys.
Yes.